Welcome. Thank you for joining us today. Another installment on our Building Stronger Together series. We've been doing this for about a year now, and what we thought we'd do is we've compiled some of the best conversations that we've had over the year and put them together in kind of a best of series today. And these are the ones that we got a lot of great feedback on. We thought were very valuable content from what you were saying to us. So we put these together today in short segments. If you would like to see any of these in their entirety, they are available on the website. You will have that link in an email after the webinar. Thanks for joining us. Let's get started.
Hi, good morning. My name is Doug Sequeira, and I'm with the Carriage House Door Company. I've been with the company going on 22 years, and we have 3 locations now, Sacramento, California, Old Fort, North Carolina, and our newest shop in Kansas City that we opened up this year. So there's been a lot of changes in contemporary design for garage doors, and I'm excited to talk about that today.
It's just a great environment that we're in right now that we can use this customization and we can do things that we haven't been able to do, or we haven't been able to kind of realize that vision is out there. So manufacturing is such a big part of that now. And Doug, let me kick it over to you a little bit. And we talk about the combination of materials has been a big part in now custom manufacturing. And Tell me a little bit about how that's evolved, for Carriage House Door and the garage door industry, and how that's kind of moved along.
Yeah, definitely. So we're a custom garage door manufacturer, so we don't have anything that's in stock. We may have some standard designs to kind of get people going on which way they want to go with design to kind of get ideas. But where we've really excelled is we started our contemporary collection about 5 years ago. Until then, most options for contemporary garage doors were pretty basic. It was either a basic flush wood door that you paint, and maybe a flush metal door, what we call a commercial rib door. And if you're looking at the screen, the door on the bottom left is what we call an aluminum full view door. So aluminum full view doors are pretty popular. Different anodized finishes, open for glass, so you can do different types of obscure glass. But you're still limited on what you can do. So what we want to come out with is show people, what we can do for a contemporary design on the garage door side, and come up with a lot of examples that people may have not thought that was possible with a garage door. So you can see in the different pictures on the screen, top left, you have one that's all stainless steel. You have staggered panels, different heights. So it kind of gives this pop-out effect look for the garage door, and it still just rolls up like your standard sectional garage door. And we also combine traditional materials like reclaimed barnwood, and we'll combine it with metal, like you see the middle door on the top. You have core-tin steel, and you have reclaimed hardwood, for the face. So it's kind of all about combining materials, kind of creating that warmth for contemporary design. Because like you'd mentioned in the very beginning, a lot of people think of it as cold, sterile, it's gray, it's plain. And we see some houses where that's the look they're going for too, and we can come up with custom for that. But we've seen a lot more where it is more warm. They're using a mix of concrete, metal, glass, wood. You kind of see a little mix of everything, and we're able to take all those elements, put them together into different designs, and really come up with a door that fits that house just perfectly.
Yeah, it's amazing. I love to see the hand craftsmanship that goes into that. And Doug, I want to go back to some of the things we're still talking about, innovations of manufacturing. And one thing that you're seeing now are these bifold doors. And tell me a little bit. Talk to us a little bit about how that's really changing these spaces.
Yeah, so the bifold doors, we really saw them get their start in the agricultural industry, aviation industry. They were hangar doors. If you had a lot of equipment for agriculture, and a way to get them inside a structure where you could use a traditional sectional door. And we're really seeing them make their way into different commercial spaces and then also residential. And so the picture you see on the screen here is a good example of that. Where you have a residential space where you really want to open up the back side of the house. You want to open up that living space to the outside and kind of create it all as one nice big space. And the nice thing about that is you don't have to worry about a, sectional garage door. It's not going overhead and you have the tracks and the motor that you're going to see. And then with the sectional garage door, you also have to worry about the horizontal section breaks. So you can only run your section so tall because you have to go through the radius of the track. So with a bifold type door, you don't have to worry about that. You have one seam, you can have open glass, so you can really let a lot of light in when the door is closed. You can open it all the way up. You don't have to worry about any obstructions on the side of your opening like you would a slide fold door. So everything just kind of goes up and out of the way. And the nice thing about that is you look at the picture on the bottom right, the interior of the house is real clean and open. And the outside looks the same way. You get that wide open space. And then you can also customize them, which is great too. So you can do different types of glass. You can do different overlays on the face of it and use different materials. So it's been a really good solution that we've seen a lot of development with. And the pictures that you show here too, you can see that they're used in different ways. So you don't necessarily have to have an opening that's 20 feet tall. You can do a smaller space and open it up like you have on the top left picture there in the bottom left. So with this space, they wanted something really clean. You can see the exposed counterbalance system on the bottom left-hand picture. But even when everything's open, it kind of opens everything up to the outside and provides a really clean solution versus having your overhead door tracks in the way. We see that on some residential applications, but of course, ideally it'd be nice to do away with that where it's not interfering with your living space. So another example of this too is the picture on the top right where you can have, instead of a bifold, it's a vertically lift door. So it's kind of hard to tell. It's kind of that middle space. If you look just past the spa, you have an opening, looks about 10 foot wide, where you didn't have any side room. It couldn't really go to the left, couldn't go to the right. So what happened is the door just went straight up. So if you look at that window on the top, the door is actually right behind it. So when the door is open, it doesn't obscure the window above it. When the door is closed, you still have open glass that kind of continues with that contemporary theme for the home there. And then also on the bottom right, you have another door that just really opens up the backside of the house to the elements outside, kind of creating that nice open space with nature that's been really popular. So again, with these, there's a lot of different things you can do. You can customize them. You can do different overlays. And again, it's all about bringing the outside in.
We also had the chance to speak with Mariann Salvador, a BMD Marvin Territory Manager for the South Bay of Northern California, about the considerations in choosing a sliding door versus a bifold door. Mariann had some great information to share with us.
Mariann, quick question for you, which is, especially in the territory that you cover, but I know that you work with a lot of our other territory managers also. What kind of door designs are you seeing in your territory? And when you're talking to a client, how do you talk to them about which is the best for their project?
Well, I would say that I see a pretty even split in design between large sliding doors and bifolding units, maybe a little heavier on the sliding, especially in high exposure areas like the coastal areas. Pocketing doors are a big part of that. When you have big, beautiful views, people want the doors to disappear, so that becomes a big part of it. There's things to consider on both sliding and bifold, I think, that you have to take into consideration on your design. If you have a large multi-slide, if you're not pocketing them, they typically will stack on top of each other. And do you have the room in your space to accommodate what is often maybe a 10 or 12 inch wide jamb? Because it's going to take away space from your room. If you're remodeling and you don't have a lot of living space, are you willing to sacrifice that 10 or 12 inches to get that stacking door? Or maybe do you go to a bifold where bifolds typically can work with standard framing? It might be the better fit for that application. Another thing to think about is functionality and accessibility, how you live, how you're using the doors. Bifolds are typically out swinging, meaning that the panels are going to stack to the exterior. And if you have a patio or deck area, do you have the room to accommodate that on the outside? Because it's going to take up a bit of space to stack all those panels. And does that work, or would a sliding door be more feasible? The other thing is accessibility. With a bifold, you always want to design the door so that you're going to have an access panel, or what we would call a daily use panel. Because if you don't have that, then you're going to have to unfold that door every time you want to use it, which is probably not what most people are going to like, or is it going to be functional? So the door can be designed with that access panel so that you have access from the exterior. But one thing to think about too with bifolds, if it's a smaller door, say you're remodeling a basic 6'8" or 7 foot tall opening, bifolds are top hung typically, so they're weighted at the top, and they have a pretty substantial head jamb. And you're looking at 6 to 7 inches typically at the top that's just framing on that door. And if you have an 80-inch opening and you're trying to put a bifold in there, I would say that if you have any tall friends, they're probably going to be ducking to get out that opening. So it's something to think about. Sliding doors don't have that because they're bottom weighted. They roll on the bottom, and they can give you a larger opening overall. I think another thing is think about your glass area. A lot of times these are view areas that you're putting these doors in. And sliding doors typically have larger panels, wider panels available than bifolds do. So when you're dealing with a sliding door, you're going to get more glass area there in general because you can have less panels and more fewer panels like you would have with a bifold. The other thing to think about with bifolds too, sliding doors stack on top of each other. So when you have your stiles from where the two panels meet, they align. So you're dealing with less panel away from your glass. So on the case of, say, Marvin's modern door, it's 2 7/8 stile and rail. So you're only dealing with a 2 7/8 bar between your glass on the panels. If you go to a bifold, now you're looking at the panels sitting next to each other because they fold on a hinge. So now you're dealing at double that width. So that's another thing to think about. Bifolds are smaller panels, and you're dealing with more panel frame. So if you have a big 28-foot opening, probably not an issue. But if you have a standard 9 or 12-foot opening, you may want to go to a sliding door with less panels. And then the other thing I think that's really critical, which Pat already mentioned, is sill transitions is probably the number one question that comes up. Everybody wants the seamless transition between inside and outside. Nobody wants to step over a sill. And that can be done sometimes, but there's a lot of work that goes into that. And there are options. Flush sills are available from manufacturers typically, and that would be a 3/4 inch low profile type of sill. But keep in mind that unless you have a substantial overhang, say 10 or 11 feet, you're never going to get water to that door, you're probably not going to use that, because if you do, you risk getting water to the inside. Yes, you'd have your smooth transition, but you may not have your hardwood looking very good in a few years. So the idea is you got to have a sill system that's going to manage water. And sometimes that's going to mean that you're going to have to step down to have that water management. So this shows you on Marvin's Signature Series multi-slide, these are 3 different sill conditions that we have. And the first one is the flush sill that I was referring to. It's a very 3/4 inch, so your flooring on your interior flushes up. It's great, right? Nothing to step over. Again, this is not going to be warranted, and most manufacturers offer this, but there's not a warranty against water infiltration with this. The second option you see there is the performance sill, and that has a rise right here, and that is probably not optimal for most people, right? Because that means you're going to have to step over it. It's a toe kick. You can kill yourself going in and out that door. It can be recessed so that from the interior, you're not looking at that big step, but you're still going to step down over it. Now, this will come with a warranty, and this will come with a performance rating. And then Marvin has this option here on the end, and this is the high performance version, where you can build a slot. And this is actually great for my area where I have a lot of coastal, really high exposure with water. This sill, it's 2.5 inches, but it's recessed down into a slot. So those are some of the things that I think about and talk to people about when they're trying to decide what is the better door for their design.
With zero net energy becoming a very hot topic, not only on the West Coast, but throughout the country, we spoke with Ann Edminster, an international expert on zero net energy homes and home building. And in this segment, she talks about the 6 critical factors that go into building and designing a zero net energy home. So here's Ann. So what's the difference about designing a ZNE home versus any other home then?
Yeah, interesting, Mark. It's not, there's no silver bullet. I like to say it's a bunch of hundreds of silver BBs.
Okay.
And so it's all about the details. And I've broken those down here into 6 different categories. So we'll walk through each of these: the roof, the form, the plan, the enclosure, windows, and documentation. So first of all, starting at the roof, and might seem funny to start at the roof, but this is called keeping the end in mind when you begin the design process. And so whichever of the ZNE goals you choose, that is going to dictate a specific amount of solar production. So you have to decide which of those you're achieving or which one you're required to achieve. And then it's a pretty simple calculation. It might look daunting. We've got energy use intensity. We need to understand our total load in kilowatts of DC energy. How many square feet of photovoltaic array does that mean? And then what does that represent in terms of roof area? And, we've seen a lot of elaboration around form. I think it's kind of an unfortunate tendency to equate beauty with elaboration, something I really take issue with. And of the 2 homes here, I think if you didn't think the way I think, you might think the building on the left is quite handsome, and in some ways it is. But I look at that and I go, wow, that is just going to be so hard to heat, cool, insulate, air seal those roof forms. That's just crazy, right? Also very expensive and really, really chopped up for PV. By contrast, the house on the right, which is in fact a project of Thrive Home Builders, so they know what they're doing. We have a simple form that's still very charming, gracious, attractive, but a whole lot more practical, much easier to heat and cool, insulate, and air seal. And look, their solar array doesn't look crazy.
Right.
So that's about that. And a little bit more about the value of simplifying. This is a project I worked on a number of years ago where the homes on the bottom were an existing neighborhood and the homes on the top were a proposed new development. And the developer, which is a major university, had been told the community wanted them to emulate the design of the homes on the other side. And they engaged me as an energy consultant. And so I reviewed their plans, and I brought my checklist in to meet with them, the development team, which is a very experienced development team. And one of the first things I said is, so have you looked at the roof? They were like, no, why? And I said, okay, well, take a look here. What do you see? Well, in the proposed designs, it's hugely more complex, right, than the existing. They had done a beautiful job of emulating the look on the elevations, the facades, but they weren't really thinking about how that was translating into all these other costs. So just to sort of show you a thumbnail of the implications here, I've done this little, very rough calculation. I said, okay, well, let's just say for the sake of argument that every extra foot of perimeter costs you $300, right? And every extra corner costs you $500. And these are just, kind of rough numbers, approximations. And I'm not thinking about what's happening, the complications on the interior, the roofing complications, the design complications, right? Because that's a lot more drawing and detailing, or the implications for the utilities of the occupants of those homes ultimately. But I just said, okay, let's take a really, really simple 2,500 square foot plan. And I've got 3 variations here, one that's got 4 corners, one with 8, and one with 18. Using my numbers, I come up with an add-on of $9,000 for Plan B and $15,000 for Plan C. So, and it's probably quite a bit more because of all those other issues. So that's just again, a really quick example about the cost of complexity that we rarely think about. Okay, so moving on to plan, the second element. Now, HVAC isn't the first thing you think about when you think about developing a floor plan, but it's incredibly, grotesquely overlooked, in fact, to the point where often there's no thought given to where the mechanical equipment is going to go. And this is a real oversight that I see in the design community, particularly residential, where it's almost always the job of the HVAC sub to figure it all out. I'm working on a project right now where, I kid you not, there was so little thought, as in zero or negative thought, that they put the equipment in the crawl space and they had to run the ducting through the crawl space wall up the outside of the building and back into the house. I was flabbergasted.
Yeah.
But you know, sadly, that's not so far beyond the norm. So it's really important that we actually plan for those systems and how to optimize them. So I'm going to skim through a lot of this because there's way more detail, and I know that you're going to make these slides available to folks. So just want to say, let's not forget all these things. It's hugely important. And when we factor them in, they can be so much simpler as well as less expensive to build and more efficient to operate. So here's an example of a project that I worked on with some colleagues in Stockton, California, our Central Valley, for Habitat for Humanity, where through a combination of careful planning that considered HVAC, we have this very, very simple system with all the components in conditioned space and really short duct runs. Similarly, same project, also thinking about the compactness of the plumbing in the plan. And so you can see these little orange dots represent every single hot water draw in the house, such that the longest pipe run is only 12 feet, which is phenomenal. So you pretty much think hot water in that house and you have it, right? Really, really smart thinking. The project manager on that project is truly phenomenal. Okay, moving on to enclosure. Now, all this other stuff I've already said precedes where most people start to think about efficiency is at the enclosure, right? So it is important, but there's a lot to be thinking of first. So once we get to enclosure, we're thinking about framing, insulation, and barriers. Now moving on to windows, and I know this is probably a particular interest of many folks in your audience. Specs, hugely important, but there's also more. And I think that, in working with your clients and customers, to bring more into this conversation is really important for zero energy homes. We're interested in the number of windows, their size, location, orientation, and exposure, all of which are part of the where, and then as well as the type, operating types. So a little bit about each of these. First of all, for ZNE Homes, generally speaking, on the projects that I've been working on, we find that if we get our U factors down below 0.27 or better, that is lower, we're doing well. And similarly, solar heat gain coefficient at 0.24 or less. Now, I know there's still a lot of controversy about SHGC. Some people are fond of a higher SHGC, that they think solar gain is great. It's very tricky because when we do a really, really terrific job with our ZNE enclosures, very, very high danger of overheating these homes with too high of a solar heat gain coefficient. So this is kind of my standard prescription here. And then of course we want to keep our VT, the visible transmittance, as high as possible at the same time without sacrificing the thermal value. Now moving on to the other issues, the strategies. So rules of thumb for me, how many? Not so many. What size? I like George's rule, try and fit them within the framing modules. I know, very unpopular with architects, but if it's part of the thinking from the outset, as opposed to an afterthought, can be done. Where should they go? Well, where views are important, where cross ventilation is important, obviously egress. Where not, where heat gain's a problem. And my favorite is your knees don't really enjoy the view, right? It's super difficult to shade of windows effectively when they're low to the floor, and a western exposures, right? And then types of operation. I'm a big fan of hinged or compression close because by definition, they are tighter. And so they give us a better enclosure than our sliding operation windows. So again, principles of shading. Overhangs, again, have limited effect at low sun angles. So that means on both the east and west, and also it's spring and fall, right? We can tend to forget that. And yet in a lot of part of the country, we can get a lot of heat during that time of year. So it's really important to consider if you have west windows and you haven't done a good job of shading them by some means, in the fall, you can roast. So hugely important. Okay, and similarly, skylights. A lot of people love skylights. I say, really, you want to poke holes in your roof? Not just a moisture liability, but also can be huge thermal liability. So I like skylights where you really don't have another good option. And here's a really nice graphic from the Florida Solar Energy Center showing a lot of different shading strategies. Okay, my final point of the 6 design issues, documentation. Now it seems really obvious, but honestly, when I've worked on projects where the teams have run into trouble, it's almost always because they thought they were going to do something and then somehow it did not get into the CDs.
Yeah.
And so this is something I think all of us who are involved in the process of designing and creating buildings can help make sure it makes happen. If we're going to do something, especially a high performance specification, something that isn't the typical way things are done. And by the way, ZNE homes are not the way things are typically done. So by definition, we're probably doing some things that are a little unusual. We want to get them in the CDs. So I can't really emphasize that enough.
On our next webinar highlight, we talked to industry entrepreneur Letitia Hankey on the labor challenges in the building industry.
All right. Now we're here with Letitia Hankey, and Letitia, it's just great to have you on here. This is, you know, I think about you being with Mike Rowe and Kelly Clarkson, and then it's little old me. So this is just an honor. But I've heard your story, and we've talked, and you know, you just bring so much to the table that I'm looking forward to hearing about. And people don't want to hear me talk, so I'm just going to turn it over to you and just let you go.
Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here as well. This is a great opportunity to just talk about how people can help this workforce issue that, you know, we're all having. And so I have a small presentation that I'm just going to go through, and then, you know, I'll come back and answer any questions that you may have. I love questions, so please write them down if you have them, because I would love to get them answered. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen really quickly here. We had a conversation. I sat down with about 14 contractors. These are painters, electrician, you know, all types of trades. And we started talking about what are the labor challenges that we're having, and, you know, what's the solution? How can we fix it? What are the options that we have? And, you know, there were a lot of answers to that question, right? But I narrowed it down today to, you know, the 4 answers that pretty much all of us, as, you know, the group of 14 of us had. So I narrowed it down to the 4. The first one is seasoned employees come with baggage. These were their exact words, just so you know, okay? I'll talk about that in a minute. Young people lack training. And yeah, that is true, but what do we do about that, right? Employees are retiring. They're retiring out. I'm sure you guys can, you know, relate to that one. And then lastly, you know, I can't afford benefits. Many of the contractors like, I can't afford medical insurance and such. So I'm going to tackle those. We'll start with seasoned employees come with baggage. So what does that mean? Now, I know some of you probably already know what that means, but I'm just going to say it. Yes, the Mr. Know-It-All. Yes, we have contractors that are seasoned. They've been in the industry 15, 20 years. They know everything. You can't train them. You can't teach them a single thing. They come with bad habits from the companies that they used to work for. That is an issue because we actually need seasoned employees so that way we can build an additional crews. So how do we fix that? I think I have a solution for that. Young people lack training. So the bigger question of this is, are we willing to train? Because yes, an 18-year-old just coming out of high school has probably been playing video games. I'm speaking about my son, by the way. Been playing video games, not necessarily wanting to work with, his hands. So how do we get young people actually interested in this construction trades? Maybe it's because they don't really know that they have that opportunity. So the question is, are we willing to train them? Can't afford benefits. Yeah, that is true. I mean, you think about a company that may only have 3 employees versus someone who has 25 like myself, or others that have 50 or more. Benefits are really, really expensive, especially for medical, having any kind of medical. But what I've done in my company, and that's what I want to go over with you today, I've implemented other things that have made it very valuable to work at my company. So the first thing is employee appreciation events. This is something that you can simply do. Now, before COVID, we used to have all of our events in person every quarter. We would do, summer camping trips. We'd go bowling. Oh, bowling night was just a blast. All the families would come. We'd have bowling nights and competitions. We do a holiday party every year and at different locations, and, where the whole family can come. And sometimes we just do a dinner with just the crews. We did a pizza party thing where we got to bake pizzas. There's so many different little things that we can do to just show appreciation to your employees and get to know them a little better. Employee recognition. So I do a program. So I'm sure some of you guys have issues with employees not showing up to work. Maybe they're sick. So I do an employee recognition where if they don't miss work for a quarter, they get a $200 bonus. Now, I know you're supposed to come to work, right? But we all know that there's an issue, that they're not showing up, their stomach's hurting, they have a headache. I guess that's why Tylenol and Pepto-Bismol exists. But anyway, that is an issue. So after a year, if they haven't missed work the whole year, in January, they get a $1,000 bonus. And so what I learned over the years is that I have more and more employees not missing work to get that $1,000 bonus. And it's worth it to me to pay that bonus to make sure that I have all my crews on site, and it helps with production of jobs as well. Aflac Insurance, there's different insurance opportunities that is that's not very expensive. We have dental, vision, and an accident plan through Aflac, and that is a really great opportunity for you, that if you want to have some kind of value, you can look into their dental plan, because it's really like $26, $30 a person, and it makes the employee feel really appreciated. And I remember their faces when I announced to them that we were going to have dental insurance. They were just so excited about that. So just know that there's opportunities, and I have really great connections if you need someone really good to tell you more about that. Holiday bonuses. I was really shocked to learn when I would get together with my contractors that they don't give, holiday bonuses, even if it's $25 gift card or something. This is something that you can really implement, right away. Really, at the end of the year, you can get them some type of holiday bonus. And I can't even tell you how much they'll appreciate that and realize how special that is, being that not a lot of companies do it. Retirement. I do an IRA for my employees for their retirement, and I match it at 3%. And there's a tax benefit to that as well. So there's a benefit for everybody, and it helps your employees save up a little money for their retirement. And I have good people to talk to if you don't have anyone. And then lastly, just treating your employees with respect. You say I can't afford the benefits. Well, this is something that you don't have to pay for. When I say that, it means, I know all my employees. Not only do I know their names, of course, but I know their kids' names, and I know their wives' names. And, you know, I treat them with respect. And many of my employees that have come to work for me over the last 10 years, most of them say they heard through the grapevine how I treat my staff. And I have a very, very low turnover. So those are a couple things that you can think about. And then lastly, employees are retiring out. Yes, they are. And we know that this is in the statistics that baby boomer generation is retiring, and the lack of young people to replace them really, really exists. There's an estimated 3 million trades jobs remaining vacant right now. And you know why? It's basically because the young people don't know. They simply don't know that they have the opportunity to go into a trade or be in a trade, because in high school, they're not taught that. They're taught, go to college. I mean, I'm sure their parents, think about your parents, you know, they probably said, you got to go to college. You go to college, and then you go to college for 4 to 5 years. You're now in debt. You graduated and still don't know what you want to do, right? That was kind of me. And the thing is that there's other opportunities for them. So I decided, once I gathered all this information from my contractors, I told them, I said, if I started a program, would you guys be a part of it and help me out? And all of them said yes. So I started a nonprofit called the Lime Foundation. And I always like to get this out the way immediately. This program is not about lemons. It's not about limes or anything like that. It's actually my son's name spelled backwards. His name is Emil, and lime spelled backwards. He used to be teased and called Lime. So I called my nonprofit Lime Foundation, and my son is 18. And when he was 15 years old, he made the decision that he wanted to get into the construction trades. He says, Mom, I want to be a construction manager. So he started his own handyman service at 15 years old, saved up his money at 16 and a half, bought himself a car, and now he's saving his money to buy himself a condo. So if young people don't know that they can make great money and have a great career in construction, then that means that we need to teach them. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that now. So tiny little explanation about Lime Foundation. It's a roofing and construction vocational program called the Next Gen Trades Academy. That's one of our main programs that we do. I also have a program called the Turner Arts Initiative. Turner's my maiden name. And that is a music, recording arts, performing arts, creative arts program. And it's a camp for our disadvantaged youth. And then we also have a senior activity program, and that was designed for our seniors over 55, seniors and veterans that are looking to be a little healthier, and we have a nutrition and exercise program for them. So that's the Lime Foundation as a whole, but today we get to talk about the Next Gen Trades Academy because it's my favorite. So this is our academy, and you know, again, when I talk to my contractors about what we can do, right, I said, how about we train them? Are you guys willing to take that extra time to do the training? And they said, yes, let's do this. So we put together a curriculum for this academy, and this is the curriculum. We do a 10-week program when we do them in person. Right now, we're just doing them by Zoom because we had to pivot ourselves once COVID hit last year. We were right in the middle of a class, and we pivoted the class and turned it into a Zoom class to finish it out. And now we've done another 4 Zoom classes. We've had the same results of getting our students hired once they graduate from the program. So we are going to continue the Zoom program, but 2022 we'll be back to doing them in person. So these are all the different trades that we go over with them. We do, of course, basic construction background. We do safety and OSHA, which is very important to all of us, right? In the trades is, and then we also talk about all these different trades. We bring in local contractors in the area to speak to them about the trades. These are all contractors that are usually hiring, or they want to be mentors. And they basically just tell their stories of how they got into the trades. I mean, I'm a musician, so I didn't get into the trades because I wanted to. I got in because I was broke in college and I needed a job. And I started working for a roofing company when I was 19, and that was 25 years ago. And so now I'm just giving that same opportunity to our young people as well. And so it's not just about trades, right? We need to do this as a whole. And there were a lot of things that I didn't know when I was 18 and 19 years old. And we all deal with a lot of stress and issues, especially our young people these days. So in our workshops, in our Trades Academy, we actually do different workshops. One is in emotional intelligence and stress management. We talk to them about how to deal with everyday life stress. So that way they're not bringing it to work, every day, how to be able to separate and how to actually deal with it. We bring in professionals for the interview and public speaking skills, so that way they know how to have good eye contact when they're interviewing with you. And, they're doing these Zoom interviews now too, right? So you got to look at a camera. And so we're teaching them how to be able to do that and be very successful. We do a resume and cover letter writing, so that way they don't have a 5-page resume, because if we all get a bunch of resumes, we can't look at that many resumes before our eyes start bulging out of our heads. So we teach them how to have a nice coherent resume for you to read and go through. Financial literacy is definitely one of our biggest workshops that we do, because when I was 18 in college, first starting off, I got that American Express card in the mail, and I went buck wild. I bought shoes and purses and ran that card up, not realizing, oh yeah, I have to pay it back. So we actually bring in professionals. We bring in different banks, local banks. We bring in Edward Jones, different financial institutions that talk to them about how to have good credit. I mean, I'm sure some of you guys know now, in our older ages, how important good credit is. It follows you the rest of your life when you want to buy a house, when you want to buy a business, when you want to buy a car. So we actually teach them that in the financial literacy and try to help set them up for better financial stability. We do a personal growth workshop, so that way they're working in teams and learning how to build each other up. And we also do health and nutrition in the class. We bring in a nutritionist to talk to our young people about the importance of not drinking a bunch of Red Bulls every day and Doritos for their lunch. And because overall brain health and body health is important, especially when you're in the trades, especially a heavy duty trade like roofing or general contracting, you need to make sure you're in good health. So those are our workshops. And then I just wanted to show you a little bit about our training. These are, of course, our classes that we did in person. We're not doing in-person classes anymore right now, not until 2022. But we do a lot of training where our students can kind of get a real life feel of, what they're doing. So this is Restoration Week, where they get to dress up in a full hazmat suit. And if you're at all familiar with restoration companies, they deal with a lot of mold, mildew, fire damage, water damage, but they also deal with hoarders. So we try to make it fun in our class. So we do this hoarder game where we kind of set up like a wrestling ring, and we have them come in and try to look for like these little pieces of paper. And it's hard to find because there's all this stuff. And so we just try to set up real life situations for them and make it very fun. Other training activities, we build solar kits during our solar week. We do a solar lesson, and then we have them build their kits from scratch and as a team. And again, it's just, another team building exercise, because when they're working for us in the trades, a lot of times they're going to be working on a team. And then we also want to see, how well they do with just following directions, right? Because that's also a very important thing when you're hiring. And then if you see that giant Jenga right there in the middle, that's during our architectural engineering week. And basically giant Jenga, if you've ever played it, is really about having a good solid foundation, right? I mean, you pull the wrong block and it's all going to come crashing down. And so it's just one of those lessons where they could be a little more involved in understanding the importance of, architecture and structural. So it's a lot of fun, actually. They get their OSHA 10 certifications. They do a 10-hour certification. They actually do not graduate from our program until they've completed their certification. So that's a requirement of our program, because all of the contractors also mentioned that safety was very important to them. Our workers' comp rates are crazy, especially in roofing. And so they get certified, and all of our students that have graduated from our program are certified. And we've had 123 students graduate so far. And then they get tools. So you all know how much tools are, and young people that are just starting off in construction, they don't have an extra $500 and $700 to buy their tools. And you also know that they need tools to work on a lot of our trades jobs. So we have a program that actually gives our student tools, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that in just a moment. And then we have a graduation for them. You know, it's a great chance for them to meet. This last year, we've had to have our graduations virtually, of course. We've had them drive-by graduations, but we made it happen. So that's what matters the most. And that's when they get their hard hats saying that they completed and their plaques, so they can be really proud that they actually completed this program. So I wanted to show you a little bit about our tiny home project, because sometimes our students aren't quite ready for you know, being out in the field with contractors. So what we do is we put them on our tiny home project, so that way they get good hands-on, especially ones that have never held a hammer before. We give them a chance to get trained kind of one-on-one. We usually put about 5 to 6 students at a time on the projects, and then they get to learn a little bit more detail on the building and get a chance to kind of do it on their own. And then that preps them for when they're ready to go and get their jobs in the real life. So, you know, usually we can recognize some of the students that need that little extra. So those are the ones that we put over on the tiny home. We are hoping to finish, go back to that program very soon, hopefully in the next 6 months. So let me tell you a little bit of how we got our tools, because I'm really excited about it. Mike Rowe has, if you know Mike Rowe from Dirty Jobs or any of his other shows, he also has a show on Facebook Watch called Returning the Favor. And about a year ago, so this was February 2020, right before we all went into shelter in place, and Mike Rowe came on and he surprised me basically, and I was ended up being on his show, and he gave us all of those tools. He gave us enough tools for over 100 of our graduates. So we've been able to give so far 63 of our graduates tools for them, and then we'll be looking for long-term opportunities to be able to continue that tool program, because we've seen how much it's really helped them. He also gave us a grant so that way we can continue doing 2 more cohorts of our classes. So it was really great. If you can't tell by my face, it was a big surprise. And then we also had the honor of going on the Kelly Clarkson show. She had heard about my Line Foundation, wanted to, you know, have us on the show just for our Next Gen Trades Academy. But then at the last minute, she wanted to bring on some of my students and graduates from our other programs as well. So we had the great fun of going on her show. And, you know, it was during COVID time, so we couldn't fly to LA. We just went ahead and did it on her virtual show, but it was still just as much fun. It was a blast. So lastly, oh, well, what can I do to help? Well, I am so glad you guys asked that question. So there's a few things, a couple things you can do, right? One is just check for your local programs. There are actual training programs most likely in your area, and you just don't know about it. Number one, if there are junior colleges around, I know here in the Santa Rosa area, our junior college not only has a roofing training program, but they also have a construction training program. There are also some local high schools that have a CTE, career technical program in their actual high schools. So it just takes you doing a little bit of research, maybe even making a couple phone calls, and you'll be able to probably find that there are young people that actually do want to be in the trades. They just simply didn't know about the opportunities. You could start your own program. Yes, you could do your own if you wanted to. I mean, maybe you have that desire to, like I did, you know, to just do a little more, because, you know, yes, I can donate to this and that, but I really wanted to be able to do something I could be really proud of. And I can tell you right now, there's nothing more special than having, you know, a student who was on probation, who changed his life around and has now been working for Tesla for the last 2 years now. You know, it means so much to really have that type of thing happen to you. So, and, you know, say you don't want to do any of those things, hey, you can call me. You know, I'm always looking for opportunities to bring our program to different locations, and you can contact me at my email there, and my website is also there. And that way you can look and see how you can bring it to your location. And I'm always ready to have a conversation about that, because I know there's so many more young people out there that really, really, really do need our program. So I want to say thank you guys so much for listening to me, and you know, I very much look forward to answering any of your questions. So thank you so much.
Yeah, we did have a gentleman. He just asked, well, what can he do as an employee in this industry to nurture his own talent? What is anything that you guys can think of that can nurture your own employee talent to keep them in this industry if they're just starting off?
I think investing in our will help with that, showing them other opportunities and how they can progress in the role that they're in. And I think that's key to retaining our employees. And also, showing that we support them as well, because they're helping us grow our business. So we should help them succeed in it,
Well, and Letitia, I gotta say, I love what you said about getting to know your employees, not just them, but you get to know their families. And when you feel a part of a company like that, you feel like there is that connection there. You wanna do more. You wanna step up. And and for us, an employee-owned company, I want to do more because I'm directly benefiting from our growth. So anything I can do. So there's things like that too.
Yeah, I agree, because all of my employees have my cell phone number directly. They can contact me directly. And yeah, knowing their family, knowing their names, knowing their kids, that really does make a difference. They know that you're actually invested in them more than, they're not just employees. My employees know that they're my family. And so sometimes it's just a little extra time taken with them, ask them how they're doing, even just asking how they're doing really makes a difference. They know that you're really caring about them. So retaining employees is really, I have very low turnover, and I listed a few things. Those employee appreciation days that I do, those are the times that we really get to know each other on a more personal level. And I can still be boss because I'm still their boss, but at the same time, they know that, we can work together and we're on the same level in so many ways.
This is our final webinar segment for today. ADUs, or accessory dwelling units, are still a very hot topic in 2021. We spoke with Patrick Allen and Logan Anderson about some of their innovative ADU projects.
This is the accessory dwelling unit for the family that's going to move in while we build our house. It looks bigger than it is because we vaulted the front facing facade of it. That's the main entry door. The big window to the left is the kitchen, and then to the right of the front door is the bedroom. This is the interior with the kitchen. So it's showing a galley kitchen. We wanted to create this as a space that was completely self-contained. Whoever's living there doesn't have to go to the laundromat to do laundry. We built in a laundry room within the kitchen. They have their sink, they have the range, the refrigerator. In addition, this ADU is 100% electric. So there's no gas appliance within this building. And that's because that is where everything is trending. It's inevitable. Probably within the next 5 years, I would say LA is going to be making it mandatory, if not sooner, that every new construction be 100% electric. They're already doing it in Northern California. It's moments away from down here for any new construction. So this is all electric. And the second project is the ADU I was speaking about that was within the shell of the existing garage. So this is 358 square feet. The previous one was 538. I didn't realize how similar those numbers were until just now. This 358 square foot, on the right-hand side, you can see the enclosed restroom. Where I'm standing taking this picture is the bedroom. Across from me diagonally is the living room. And behind this walnut shelf that we built is the kitchen dining space. So we tried to confine, keep everything within it. We closed up the garage door because where you see the front door in this was where the garage door was. Mm-hmm. Put in windows, put in a new door there. We vaulted the roof, put in a couple of beams, new posts to support the existing substandard roof to get it to do this, and threw in some skylights just to bring more daylight in because it is a very small postage stamp size structure. A transparent screen that gives a sense that you're in a room, yet, you do have that, you feel like you're part of a larger space. It doesn't feel too constricted. So here's another shot of it from the front door, looking across the kitchen into the bedroom. And beyond, you can see the multi-slide glass door that we have, which is right adjacent to the bed. So when she is entertaining, she can open up the sliding glass door. Her bed becomes a piece of furniture for people to hang out on. But then she's got furniture out in the backyard of the garage to hang out with her friends and not interfere with the main residence. The last one, which is a really small one, this is a junior ADU. So junior ADU, they have slightly different requirements, less restrictive requirements than the main ADUs, a primary ADU. So these ones, you're allowed to convert your garage if your garage is attached and turn it into a junior ADU. It does need a place to prepare food and a little refrigerator, but it doesn't require its own bathroom. So you can actually have a door going into the main residence and they can share the bathroom adjacent to it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
The upside to this is cost-wise considerably different, much more economical than the main ADU because you're not building a new bathroom. And the kitchen can be down to, like you see in this photograph, a simple sink with some cabinetry and a hot plate and an under-counter refrigerator. And then you got storage, but then you turn the space into a bedroom living space for maybe the mother-in-law or some other family that are coming to crash, and you don't want them in your business. Really enjoyable about this project, and along with all of my projects, is always a collaboration with the client. And this guy is an inventor, and I think that's even on his business card. And he loves to create things, and we wanted to do everything we could to save costs on this. So he did a lot of the labor himself. I didn't do the build, just did the architecture and helped him with the permitting process, getting through the city and get it all approved. Once we had it constructed, he had to get access through the garage door because he needed to have an exterior entry into this junior ADU. And he has what everybody else has on these garages in Los Angeles, a sectional garage door, 4 panels that roll up into the ceiling. We weren't allowed to use that as the primary door. They wanted us to put in a standard type of door with a minimal threshold. So he came up with this way of cutting out of the existing garage door, as you can see in the photograph, this sectional front door. So he can bolt it in place from the interior, and the garage door rolls up like a sectional door. But if he doesn't want to open it that way, he just turns the doorknob, and you can see it just swings open like a regular door and locks like a regular door.
Yeah, so I have some projects that I can share that range in, there's a few different opportunities with ADUs. I think for the most part, a lot of people seem to be looking at these as what how I like to refer to it as they're putting the accessory in accessory dwelling unit. There's incentives to develop your own functionality, own aesthetic, etc. This project here is an ADU that will be going in to get permitted. It's in Oceanside, and this is a perfect example of that, in that this owner doesn't necessarily need to rent out a space, but he's in the process of remodeling or renovating their backyard, which currently is just wasteland of sorts or whatever. And part of that was that he would like to add an accessory dwelling unit that would have the potential to rent should he need to, but ultimately serves as an accessory to his house, something that when entertaining or just there with his own family, just an opportunity to go and enjoy something there. So this here is a floor plan. As you can see, most accessory units wouldn't have a pool table or design around a pool table, which we spent a lot of time doing here. So that's the floor plan here, again, custom design. This is a galley kitchen with a giant window facing out to the dining table, which is just something that this homeowner, doesn't mind having the galley kitchen, really actually wanted the galley kitchen just so they'd have this ability to stand at the grill and or the range, and cook for friends and family. Galley kitchen, I think, is what it's typically referred to, which basically just means that it's like a hallway. And again, this is just a good example of what an ADU doesn't necessarily have to follow this kind of rigid, like boxy 800 square foot, 1 bedroom, just slap it up and all that. Like, you can really use ADUs as an opportunity. I mean, renovating a home is expensive, and homes are typically a lot bigger than, say, 800 or in this case 1,000 square feet. Sometimes they're not, but either way, it might require, you know, redoing a lot of infrastructure and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, well, you know, having the ability to, you know, start from scratch and design your, you know, almost your dream home in a sense, but that's a smaller footprint or whatever meets the requirements for these ADUs with respect to area, square feet is kind of an interesting opportunity or whatever. I've had this next project is actually a small project, but what the intentions are from the homeowner's perspective, I don't have renderings of it, but this project here just shows a demolition plan, a floor plan of what this is a 2,500 square foot single family residence in Carlsbad that has a 3-car garage, and they're going to convert this 3rd-car garage space and add on to it in this linear fashion here. And there's a lot of opportunity to from a homeowner's perspective as to what an ADU can be. And I think that that would be my reason to going to an architect and presenting your ideas, and whether or not you think they're outlandish or crazy or whatever, I doubt it. I mean, that's what we've heard and envisioned and thought of everything ourselves. So I don't see it as, I just think it'd be, you know, it's a really good opportunity to take your existing lot and or house or whatever and kind of treat it like it's brand new with respect to what you can do there. Just since I have the pictures, I'll just show you a couple other. This is one that we completed before they increased the size of ADUs. It's 640 square foot, which used to be the maximum allowed in Carlsbad for an attached ADU, and this was just built over an existing garage. You can kind of tell what the existing house must have been. And then another one in Carlsbad that we're in the process that they've just gotten the permits approved. This is the existing garage, and then, you know, we're building right over the top of it. And, you know, again, the homeowner here intends to move into this and rent out the primary residence because it'll be a means to basically living on site with a brand new building for free.